This is Things You Might Not Have Heard. I'm Jacob and Payne, and here we tackle the question, what do you want to talk about? And we think we've got it set up. 10 stories queued up ready for you from the weekend that cover conversational topics that you vetted as conversational. They cover information, politics, current events, and pop culture news. We're talking Mark Carney. Who's Mark Carney? Very important. Amy Coney Barrett, very important. And Ben Affleck doing some advice that sounds like something your dad would say. We'll explain the vetting process in just a bit, but right now, let you know about what we're doing for you here is also out there in the ether. Go to our website. This is theconversationproject.com. Find out all you need to know about the full offerings of the Conversation Project. And you can email us with your comments, concerns, and all questions that can be asked. We'll try to answer them at theconversationinbox@gmail.com. Now, today happens to be Monday, the 10th of March, 2025. We have 10 stories, as we said here. No particular order as they're being presented, just to order a narrative that just sounds the best. And we'll explain how we put these 10 stories specifically, has to be 10 for Monday, for you today after we go through all the headlines. So stick around. You'll see how the vetting process works and how you literally help us pick the conversational topics. Starting off the top with the guy whose name is going to be pretty important to you, even though you're not sure why. It's Mark Carney. He is going to succeed Justin Trudeau as the prime minister of the Liberal, or the head of the Liberal Party in Canada, and now as prime minister by default. The distinguished economist and former central banker has been elected to lead Canada's Liberal Party, succeeding the Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. Carney secured about 85.9% of the votes in the party leadership, and of course, the former finance minister Christina Freeland got bounced out for that one. So she had a good run, but apparently not big enough to run the country that is Canada. We'll talk 51st state in a moment. But of course, the young man, not so young man if you will, is born in the 60s, a child of going through sort of the turmoils of time, has served pretty standard things, but not much not much in government, I should say. He's governor of the Bank of Canada from 2008 to 2013, did some stuff. And of course, he's known as the first non-Briton to govern the Bank of England, holding the position from 2013 to 2020. He knows money, he knows banking, so he probably knows what's going to happen along with these tariffs and this trade war that's going on between us, US, and them, the Canadians. He assumes the leadership with the tumultuous time in Canada, as of course Trudeau didn't have to step down just now. He just, because his party lost, it was like the time was to take the hit. And ironically, after the beef with the United States and President Donald Trump, the party, the party that he leads, and he did lead for a while, is now up, in the polls, up in people's stance. And Trudeau actually has approval ratings that are up again, which is good for the new guy, Carney, as he goes on to fight the power that's be that wants to make Canada the 51st state. He has stated in a quote that just like hockey, Canadians will win. Canadians do what they do, and they destroy what gets in their way. He will find a way to make sure that Trump is not destroying Canada, and the rest of the world in the process. Now, like I said, a political newcomer, he never actually held elective office before, but his leadership is big. So they think he can do new things for the party, moving it forward, if you will, getting out of the traditional roles. Trudeau was the basic son of a prime minister, so he's been groomed for this. Carney, new guy, new look, and a whole new way of doing things with the new issues with the U.S. markets. We'll see how it all plays out in the upcoming days, weeks, months, and of course, years. Stop me if you heard this one. HHS offers all employees a $25,000 voluntary buyout package. This now from the Department of Health and Human Services, extending a voluntary buyout of $25,000 to all of its 80,000 employees. Everyone in the agency can get $25,000 to leave. This, of course, aligns with President Donald Trump's broader strategy to reduce federal government expenditures. $80,000 people not working for the government would be a big expenditure, but supposedly they're doing things, and that's where things come out. Now, to be eligible for this, you have to get the email, which was sent company-wide. Everyone in the staff members got it. All people got it, including people from the CDC, the NIH, and the FDA. Whatever you're doing, you can still take this buyout and go away. Employees interested in the voluntary separation incentive can basically submit their applications today. They have until about 5 p.m. on Friday. Just like Deutsche did with the first cuts, it was there. Now, this is a big deal because it's coming from HHS. And while originally Robert F. Kennedy Jr., the head of that league, the head of that group, said to ignore the Deutsche meeting, the Deutsche email or the OPM email, this one's coming out straight from them. As Donald Trump has directed the folks in his cabinet, they have to figure out who they're going to fire, who they're going to cut, what's going to happen, or Musk will do it. Musk won't cut them all anymore, but if you don't, he'll come in and take care of it. Now, the annual budget of HHS is about $1.7 trillion, and it's primarily located to the healthcare programs, not the people, but programs like Medicare and Medicaid. The buyout incentive would be great for some folks who are basically ready to get out of the deal, but also means streamlined efforts, curtailing costs for the department, and meaning less people to get stuff done in departments that need probably more people to get stuff done. The streamlining would be great, but streamlining after you get rid of the people doesn't always work so well as you think it's going to do. The buyout offers part of the larger federal incentive to decrease the workforce expenses across everyone. That in January, essentially, Donald Trump went into the office signing executive orders saying fire people, get rid of folks, make things worth less. And that's what's happening right here. Challenges in operations include basically funding critical public health challenges. Measles outbreak in West Texas, New Mexico is a big deal that must be dealt with, and without people working those issues, they're not there. Working on Medicaid funding, which is looking for cuts anyway, now significant cuts because we have to make the budget cuts for whatever reasons. Your mileage may vary on why they must be cut. And the big thing is employees. Getting rid of people who know stuff is always an issue. Whether they're newer to the deal, they're probationary and just now learning things and getting into the groove and you think it would be the next time the superstars, or the old heads who've been there forever who were close to getting down, but using this as the excuse to pull the trigger and say, so long, suckers. You guys you have to deal without me. We shall see how Robert F. Kennedy, the Jr., will do with this one, how Deutsch will come in behind it, and how HHS will function on lower staff. The MAGA world is turning on Supreme Court Justice Amy Coney Barrett. This is an interesting story. Of course, she was appointed by Donald Trump in 2020 and is facing some backlash from some Trump supporters after she decided in the high-profile case, a 5-4 decision, actually joining with Chief Justice John Roberts to unfreeze the nearly $2 billion in foreign aid the Trump administration had attempted to withhold. This is a lot of the USAID stuff, the things that was basically promised to people that's keeping us from helping folks around the world with what's called soft power, basically paying folks off to make their lives a little bit better so that their lives aren't so bad so they don't come here and be belligerent. That's kind of how it works. Right-wing commentators are expressing their disappointment with Barrett's decision, as they do. Some includes Mike Cherfonich, Mike Davis, Khalid King-Kremer, big names in the conservative movement who are saying that she was wrong to do this, and she's basically blocking the president from getting stuff done. Making America great again is what President Trump wants to do, and this is not doing it. But despite the recent criticisms, it's noteworthy that Barrett has actually been consistent with the conservative positions on these things. She voted with conservative justice over 80% of the times, all the time. So it's not like she jumps the fence very often. When she does, it's significant for something that may or may not be history making. Obviously, she went along lines for the Roe versus Wade turnover, but in something like this, it seems a bit different. She seems to want to keep the funding going to these aid programs because the actual disruption seems like it's worse than actually killing the funds and making it go back to whoever. And maybe, just writing's all a check, because basically it's just all writing's all a check. It's how it's coming down to. Let's move on to the next story. And this is one that is more of the changes that Donald Trump has put into place. A big change with the Kennedy Center and the board, as Donald Trump, has appointed Laura Ingraham and Maria Bartiromo to the board. Not that they're not worthy of being on the board, but here's sort of the underlying thing on that one. They are obviously journalists who are extremely nice, extremely accommodating, extremely good to Donald Trump. And so they've been appointed on this honor. It's a great honor to do that one as members of the Board of Trustees for the John F. Kennedy Senior Center for Performing Arts. This finalizes the restructuring of the board that started back in January, essentially as Trump got in office. Of course, in February, Trump basically fired the board members and appointed himself as the chairman and put other people on there to be a part of what's going on. One of the notable people that was there didn't know that. The former chairman was David Rubenstein, but the former press secretary, Karine Jean-Pierre, was actually on the board for the Kennedy Center. So perks that came with the job, if you will. Put on some longtime folks that he likes, including Richard Grenell, a longtime ally and interim president right now. And, of course, Susie Wiles is on the board. rank as his privilege, of course, Dan Savino, former Deputy Chief of Staff, and Usha Vance, the wife of Vice President J.D. Vance. There you go. But the overhaul is all part of the big deal to make things less wokish, I guess, for the Kennedy Center. Donald Trump believes that there's way too much crazy liberal wokey stuff that's going on in Kennedy Center, so he wants to make it more in line with the values of Americans. Your mileage vary with that one. One very American play that people love is Hamilton, and it's not coming to the Kennedy Center next year because they pulled off the docket. Plus, many other stories, many other things have pulled the docket because they just don't like the direction things are going. Of course, the host of the Ingraham Angle, and of course, the host of many things on Fox Business, Ingraham and Bartiromo are, probably good people. There was a time when Maria Bartiromo was most known in her quirky sense for having a song by the Ramones. She was in a lyric for the Ramones song, and now she is cozying up to Donald Trump. It is kind of what it is. This next story takes a little bit of going into, so I'm going to read it straight from the robot editor editing, and you gotta have to kind of go along with it. The U.S. Department of Defense is undertaking a complete and comprehensive removal of content related to diversity, equity, and inclusion across many platforms. This is following the executive orders from President Donald Trump. The initiative has led to the flagging of over 26,000 images for deletion, just getting rid of them in the archives, with projections totaling that could come up to about 100,000 total. Erased from the archives from the Department of Defense because they go against the new DEI standard. Now, here's where things get ugly. The Enola Gay aircraft. Images of the Enola Gay B-98 bomber that dropped the first atomic bomb on Hiroshima during World War II have been marked for deletion, erasure, getting rid of history and pictures. The aircraft was named after the mother of the pilot, Colonel Paul Tibbets. The inclusion of the word gay in the name appears to have led to this flagging. Also, this is Tuskegee Airmen. Photographs of the Tuskegee Airmen, the first black military pilots served in the segregated unit in World War II, have been flagged. While some of the images have been removed, others do remain accessible, highlighting inconsistencies with the purge process. You may have known we talked about this weeks ago, where within literally a day of signing the executive order, the Air Force Academy had to stop teaching about the Tuskegee Airmen, or at least putting it in their opening, welcoming videos that talked about diversity, because diversity. They have so far put them back into the curriculum because they're flying men who did great stuff, and you need to know how they did stuff so you're a good flyer. But it is what it is. Also, other minority milestones and women milestones, if you will. The first woman to pass Marine infantry training in World War II, Medal of Honor recipients who are women and minorities have been targeted for removal. So there's confusion, as you think, among various military branches of what exactly is critical for content removal. Flagging things that are notable with file names such as gay, which is how Enola Gay got flagged, or things that show some sort of actual non-white-ish stuff. And I'm just saying that, just non-white stuff. The Tuskegee Airmen are black airmen, so they're DEI hires. They were hired because they were black. It was an experiment. It was true. And that means they need to be erased from the actual process. Sometimes history rhymes. It doesn't repeat itself, but it rhymes. There's a very heavy, very distinct beat going on with things going there, trying to get rid of things. Because someone had the surname Gay, there are people whose last name is Gay. It means DEI will purge it from the systems. Pentagon spokesperson John Yoigvoit stated that the department is pleased with the rapid compliance across divisions of removing the DEI content. He acknowledged that in rare cases, content outside the intended scope has been removed, and the corrective instructions have been issued accordingly to bring them back. Sometimes you make mistakes in these things, and that happens, but so many things are being flagged, it seems sort of odd, or maybe not so odd based on your perception of how things are going. We pause from the news stories right now. 10 headlines to total, 5 down, 5 to go. But we need your help to grow our platform and have more news nerds in our nation. We need you to like, share, and subscribe to this video here or any of the content we have going out there. Now, this video particularly is coming to you live in a feed from Facebook, from X, and from YouTube. And if you enjoy it, if you like the news I'm giving to you and the commentary that's coming along with it, if it's enjoyable, like it. or on whatever platform it is, especially on YouTube, because YouTube helps. We do our gauge on YouTube. We're almost at 2,000 subscribers on YouTube, and that's a great milestone we love to hit. When you like it on YouTube or any place, it tells algorithms that we're producing good content, and they might share with other folks who will enjoy it. It also tells me I'm doing good content, and I might want to do more of that going forward. If you know people who enjoy this type of stuff right off the bat, skip the middleman and share it directly with them. See if they like it, see if they chat about it. Maybe you are sharing it because you want to make fun of me. I'm okay with that. Share it as well. You can like it and hate comment. I'm okay with that, because it all comes down in the wash for team content. And if you're not getting this native into your feeds, subscribe to it so it comes down to you. I'm not even asking for notifications, because I don't do a lot of notifications with my subscriptions. I actually go looking for things and see how things are going at various points of time. So we need your help. Join the News Nerd Nation, or help grow the News Nerd Nation if you're already a part of it, by liking, sharing, and subscribing to our content, specifically this video here, to grow this one for things you might not have heard and more conversational project, long form projects. Our story at number 6 has a South Carolina prisoner from death row who was killed by firing squad. The first time they've done this execution style, at least in South Carolina, in 15 years. Now, this happened on Friday, and the firing squad was able to execute Brad Sigmund, who was convicted in 2001 of murders of his ex-girlfriend's parents, David and Gladys Lake, and then, of course, kidnapped his girlfriend and tried to maybe do harm to her. She escaped, and this is how we got this one. Sigmund is the 4th person in the United States to be executed by firing squad since '76, first one since 2010. Now, the options were lethal injection, electrocution, or firing squad. He was afraid of electrocution, being that it might be extremely painful and usually cruel. And getting the drugs or lethal injection have been hard for a lot of times because it's a slow death. So he went in firing squad. And by all definitions, by all explanations, it was quick. It was fast. It was efficient. And this is one reason why many states are looking to make firing squads the preferred method going forward for any executions. From the actual event, 3 volunteer marksmen actually stood behind a barrier so you couldn't see them. You can't see the executioner. And when they raised the curtain, Sigmund was strapped to a chair. Hood was over his head. A target was placed over his heart. Shots were fired from about 15 feet away. He died pretty quickly. Watching the people, because I have to watch the press conference afterward, there were 3 members of the press who were there, along the other folks that were invited to watch the execution. And they were the press pool to give the explanation and give you what we have for these stories. And the definition of efficient, the definition of just sort of clinic, is an overstatement of how they actually talked about what happened. His final words were some Bible scriptures. His last meal included fried chicken, which he wanted to share with many folks in his state, but he couldn't. It is a thing. Now, full disclosure, I am not opposed to capital punishment. I'm not opposed to the death penalty. I am sort of opposed to the fact that it sort of drags on and on and on. I'm also opposed to the fact that it's thrown fairly liberally towards people who tend to get off now that we have more ways to prove evidence, showing that it's not a deterrent. It really is used for a punishment for people who don't have the means to actually fight for themselves. So if we're going to use it, it needs to be used pretty much strategically, and for people who've done really, really bad things, not just for people who feel the need to shake their fist in the air and get some votes for people who are upset about things. So I'm not really that familiar with the case, other than seeing on the back end as people are talking about the actual execution. And he was on the death row for quite some time, as many people are, appealing over and over again until all appeals are done. No last appeal, death by firing squad happening last week. We have the very tragic details on the death of Gene Hackman and Betsy Arakawa, as we have heard from being found in their home on the 26th of February in Santa Fe, both passed, plus along with a dog as well. Clarity, but not quite closure from learning from the issues. Now, Arakawa succumbed to what's called the pulmonary virus, HPS. It's a rare virus, but a severe respiratory disease that's transmitted through contact with infected rodent as excrement, basically rat poop. So essentially, what is believed is essentially maybe the house was infected. There was something going on, and there was plenty of it in the air, and was able to have her succumb to it in a very odd manner. It can actually progress rapidly once you get it into your lungs going forward, which is why she had a very rapid response. What makes this even more sad is for Gene Hackman, who passed away from hypersensitive and atherosclerotic cardiovascular disease, essentially heart issues, but was exacerbated by his advanced Alzheimer's disease. Alzheimer's is a disease that messes with your head, but literally messes with your body. Your body is breaking down, and what breaks down the fastest is your brain and your ability to manage yourself. His heart basically stopped on the 17th of February. That's when his pacemaker stopped working. So that's essentially his moment of death. The problem was Arakawa had died days before, maybe a week before. And so essentially Gene Hackman was left in his weakened state, just wandering the house without any care. Arakawa was his caregiver, and he was in such a state of illness that without her, he was essentially just a vegetable wandering around, and that's why he was just found in another room just there. The dog was in a crate because the dog had just went to the vet for a procedure, and so it could not be running around the house. It was in the crate for most of the day when Arakawa passed in the crate, so the dog died mostly, we suspect, from starvation. The other dogs that were roaming free, they had free roam in the place, so they were fine. This gives us some closure. This gives us questions answered, but it also gives us a very sad ending to this story. More to the loss of Gene Hackman, not knowing just how badly he was in health, and how this probably could have been avoided, at least in this way. What's not to avoid when you're trying to run for president, or just try to get some exposure out there? Gavin Newsom is breaking away with Democratic Party thought process and aligning with the public opinion on trans athletes in his opening salvo into the podcasting world. This is something that you'll hear more of, see more of, as Gavin Newsom needs to up his profile. He is term limited out of being the governor of California. I have issues with term limits, but then they're kind of weird how they go there. But he has launched a podcast, and we've been talking about the podcast for a while because they've been promoting it. You've got to hype it up. You've got to launch all that great stuff like there. I do podcasts. You got to do all these things to promote it so people listen. But what Gavin Newsom has done in the inaugural episode, when he talked to Charlie Kirk in This Is Gavin Newsom, discussing the issues of transgender athletes participating in women's sports and expressing concern, Harris' concern, on what's going on. So basically, to put it into a nutshell, he said that having transgender women compete in female sports is, quote, deeply unfair. So it's probably not a good thing. And the thing is, he falls in line with majority of Americans. Americans share the concerns about the fairness in transgender women competing in women's sports. Newsom had a stance on this, reflecting in the podcast, saying that, it doesn't really work so well. And he's going along with the public opinion. The move actually has implications for his presidential race, as he's trying to move himself away from the super liberal governor of California, which he is, to a more palatable person that people can vote for on all sides, or at least not on the weird leaning lefty side of Democrats. Because right now he was the proposed savior to save us all from the, let's just say, disgrace that was Joe Biden in the wrap of his campaign. When it turned out that Joe Biden wasn't doing so well, many folks wanted a mini primary. They were talking up some names. They threw out Whitmer. They threw out Gavin Newsom. They threw out some names out there. And Biden continued on pressing on. And then when he dropped out, they essentially handed it over to Kamala Harris, because she was technically in the running, the next person up there, so it all made sense. But it's interesting that Newsom is doing these things to raise his profile now, because right now he's running against an unknown. Donald Trump, at the moment, Project 2025 notwithstanding, can't be president 4 years from now. And assuming he isn't, there are other folks that have to actually speak up, including folks who may be another run for Kamala Harris, although she's looking at going to governor, maybe. Some responses from folks around his orbit. The San Francisco Senator of Scott Wiener, a San Francisco representative in the state, criticized Newsom's alignment with Charlie Kirk, calling him a vile bigot. Former Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot expressed strong disappointment and disapproval, stating the transgender youth in California might feel abandoned by the governor with this going on. And of course, the LGBTQ plus advocacy groups are all over his butt. Now, I have actually addressed this in various spaces in the last couple of months because this is an issue that's not going away. I've told you people that I'm not comfortable with the issue. I'm just not comfortable with the issue going forward because it's something I don't deal with. In fact, by the numbers, by science, people who have issues with transgender issues or things going on in, it's a very small percentage of people. So, and the people who actually transition and then fall on in some sort of level of high level sports, it's also extremely long. It's less. The fact that they use it as a dog whistle in the election run up and all the campaigning is extremely sad. It's an issue. It's a serious issue. It's something that should be addressed and should be addressed on a level that makes perfect sense. This is one I can't magically fix in my head because this is a serious issue that deals with people. People who are dealing with the issue directly have their rights to have their rights. How they play out in a world that's not always fair or equitable is the big question. Gavin Newsom is saying that it's really unfair for transgender women athletes to basically compete with women in the athletics. We'll see if his opinion will help him sway other people to the opinion that he's a very good person to run our nation. So, Ben Affleck did the most daddiest thing that he could with his son, and people are saying it is awesome. People love Ben Affleck. You know, they've gone through his struggles, gone through whatever. They loved him being himself. They loved him with Jennifer Garner. They love that he's maybe back with Jennifer Garner, and they actually kind of got back with the J-Lo back and forth. Now, they want the best for Ben and want the best for his family, and this thing just shows how every man-ish he is. Recently, Ben Affleck was at the Got Soul sneaker convention with his 13-year-old, Samuel. He's a sneakerhead. They're both sneakerheads, and they're checking out shoes. Samuel noticed a nice pair of Dior Air Jordan 1 sneakers, priced at $6,000. Those aren't the ones that you see their picture. They're in another picture. I couldn't get a good picture that had them there. He wasn't allowed to touch them because they cost $6,000. Upon seeing the sneakers and Samuel's interest in the very expensive footwear, Affleck humorously remarked, "That's a lot of lawns you got to mow there, kid." And in the candid father-son interaction, people resonated online, basically knowing that that's exactly how their dad would have said something. Or if it was my dad, he would just said, yeah, no, and moved along with that. Despite his actual money, Affleck sort of made it hinted that it wasn't just, okay, I'll buy these shoes for you, kid. It's, you got to do a little something to earn these expensive things, which is great. Discussions online about parental financing and responsibility, the challenges of raising kids in influential environments, and just in general, as I learned from my parents who wanted to give me and my sister all they could and didn't initially have it all, and now gave my niece and nephew, they raised them after my sister passed, everything they could, and they got a whole lot. And seeing myself as a parent want to give my kids, both my almost 30-year-old and my almost 13-year-old, all I can give them, and the frustration in, you know, knowing that I'm giving them stuff that maybe they didn't quite earn yet is a big deal. Parenting and finances, take care of your kids is a big deal. And this is something that all parents can get a kick out of and kind of commemorate with on this whim. At this point, Ben did the right thing. At least we think he did. We're pretty sure he didn't actually buy the shoes, but, you know, sometimes your kids can get those things out of you if they try hard enough, or sometimes just try very little because we are parents and we want to give to the children. And finally, let's go to Anora, a movie that I haven't seen, I will not see, and many people like you will probably not see. More will see it now that it won some awards, but most will not. Most will not care. It spent $18 million to market the film, which is how it did so well. $6 million budget, so 3 times the budget for marketing from the movie being done. And it got a lot of reviews, a lot of good stuff. It grossed over $40 million worldwide, which is a great thing as well. Academy Awards, Best Picture and Best Director. That's great. Some of the merchandising, including some little wifey bright red thongs. social media engagement, all sort of things buzzing on the platforms, and of course the industry getting into the know what's happening. Talk about independent films, because if you push the fact that independent films are being made, more people will make them, and that's a way to advertise itself. You get pushed. Hey, this one made big deals. Maybe you can bring your independent film with a little bit of money and make it happen. So, in contrast, Wicked spent $150 million on marketing. Aurora spent $18 million. Wicked cost more than $6 million to build, so you got that one. And Wicked didn't need so much marketing as it just wanted to inundate everyone with itself, because that's what stories like that do. It is what it is. Anora got the wins and got what it got of the budget to do the things to make it work. I guess we're happy for the little movie that could. I'm not watching it. The wife may want to watch it. She can watch it with her sister or something, but this is not something I'm looking forward to watching, mostly because, as we say often, things don't blow up, and I like it when things blow up because, rah, I'm a guy. We have wrapped up the 10 news stories for this morning, and we are glad to have them in there and glad that you're along with us and got to this part. Now, since you're here, let's tell you how these stories got here and how you can make sure the next 8 stories for tomorrow get there as well. We have what we call our feeds. Our feeds are our pages, our links, our homes on social media platforms, X and Facebook. Also Threads. We check Threads out when we can, but Threads isn't reliable with the stats, so it usually gets we do a scan and go from there. Now, when you go to X and go to Facebook to check your other things from the rest of your friends, we know you're still at Facebook and X. We know you're there. Don't act like it's not happening. Check us out, see what we're doing, or make sure you're following us as of members of your own feed, so we pop up in your feeds every so often anyway. And what you'll get is news articles, headline links every 50 minutes or so until you get to the stories that you engage in, the stories that you like, stories you want to talk about. And you do that. You engage in them. You show me you like them. You talk about them. And if you engage by clicking emoji faces or replying comments or share a bunch of stuff, I see people who are engaging in stories, and we take those into consideration. Today, we had 10 stories. We gave you 10 stories out of 30 or so of the top stories from the weekend, about 90 stories total, that were the best for the narrative. If you don't think we got the right ones, email me at theconversationinbox@gmail.com, and you can see, we'll have a discussion. The rest of the week, 8 stories a day, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, 8 stories from the top 30 stories. We'll get the top 15 stories of the 30 stories we get in the day, just like that one. And so if you want to pick this story here, how the DOJ is investigating major egg producers amid soaring prices, maybe the producers are taking advantage of us. DOJ is looking into that. If you want to talk about that one, engage in the story when you see it in your feeds. Now, like I said, every 50 minutes we put stories out there, so we're covering it 24/7 with stories. You may have to go looking back for something. You may have to see something as the algorithm decides it wants to share it with you. Sometimes it's a matter of time. And one thing we find that's really interesting about time is sometimes we get on a story, that's a little too early for the conversation part. People aren't really talking about it, but it's out there as a headline. Sometimes we're a little late, something that's been talked about for a bit, and we finally get around to putting in there because of time or whatever. It is kind of a big old mystery of what we put in there, because it's based on what we see and how we can put it out there time-wise. And what we talk about is the mystery solved by you, because you tell us. You help us pick the stories in the timeline. Facebook.com/This is the Conversation Project. X.com/TH_conversation. Like, love, hate, share. Engage with the stories. Higher engagement, better chance of chatting it up. This one in particular for tomorrow. Now might not be the greatest time for investing, you may say. The markets are in flux. No one knows what's happening. Everything is upside down. But now may be the greatest time for personal investing in your area of stocks and using something like Robinhood to get in for it the quick and easy way. Take control of your financial future with Robinhood and their investing platform, which has never been easier, more accessible, or more empowering. And right now, as many stocks are down, now's the time to really get into them on a lower level, because when they rebound or go even better, you will be in great positions. Stocks, options, ETFs, and even cryptocurrencies are there. Cryptocurrency is a little bit of a crazier Wild West, but get in on these purchases commission free. And there's even more advanced tools and advanced options you can do to trade things in Robinhood. They have a new user-friendly app and a new user-friendly dashboard that gives you all the things that the big brokerage house will give you, and they'll give you 1 share for free if you log in and join them. They're still doing that one. Easy to understand educational resources so you can understand what's going on. You can buy fractional shares for as little as $1. You can buy, you can buy $1 worth of Berkshire Hathaway. Yes, you can, and do that. They have cash management tools and Robinhood Gold, which help you manage your money even bigger with a premium research tools that get into your money. Investing for everyone's at Robinhood, and we want you to get on the ground floor with us. Use our link. This is theconversationproject.com/Robinhood. This is theconversationproject.com/Robinhood as you can join the revolution of taking care of your own self, your money. Now, investments do have a chance of losing money. All stocks don't go up to the moon. What you put in may not be the same amount that you get out of it in the end, and you will have to pay some sort of taxes or penalty on early withdrawals of things going forward. But the best way to get in charge of your finances is to take some charge. Start with a little bit of money, put a little bit in, and wait the time to see, and use Robinhood as one of those ways to take control of your financial future. I think I'm supposed to have a slide here. In fact, I am. I think I moved the wrong slide, so we'll fix that, not in post. But this is where I hype up the Conversation Project. That this is theconversationproject.com, and let you know that we can be found online there. You can find us and our past episodes there. You can find information on where to find us in various other forms. If you're watching this on Facebook, X, or YouTube, you can go to TikTok. You can see the email newsletter. You can find us in audio form for the replay for the podcast. All those things and more. All those things and more. That's what the Conversation Project is here for. We got you. We got you. So it's there. Also, check out our partnership page and see if you want to join up and help us directly work with us to get things better. Visit other sponsors so that you can see other folks that will take good care of you and take care of us with commissions on the back end. And of course, you can always follow the feeds, which is free, and email us at theconversationinbox@gmail.com to get in on the good stuff. We're here for you 24/7 to take care of you, and that's what we're doing here. So we're here for you in the morning to record this show, but all day long we're posting news article for you to engage in, so engage if you please. Now, today is Monday, March the 10th, 2025. Wrapping up for this day, for this Monday. Getting a good kickoff to the week, we believe. A nice, smooth transition, a very smooth day. Not having the promo slide is something. I'll check my build for that one again. But glad to have you all on with us for this grand gesture that is the Conversation Project. Make sure you are following us on the feed so you can tell us what stories to talk about, because we need you to tell us what stories to talk about. This is not the monologue project. It's the Conversation Project. It's about stories that you think are conversation to talk about. I have a second channel called You're Welcome. There'll be links to that in various places. We are working on a video that I didn't realize how powerful it was going to be to do this yesterday, but we had a bevy of marches and protests and things in Arkansas over the past couple of weeks. And yesterday we had a march that was specifically to highlight and celebrate the anniversary of Bloody Sunday. And with that, the same sort of talk that you expect that these things happen. It was not very militant, if you will. It was well organized. There wasn't a real program, but people came to speak, and it was short. The very short walk from one spot across from a bridge across the street, because the city hall is literally at the other end of the bridge. And then we walked. There was about an hour's worth of commentary, some prayer, a little bit of rabble rousing, and a lot of love and affection from all sorts of people. And so I got to figure out how I'm going to put that together. It'll be experimental for me going forward, what's going to happen. But I got clips, I got video, I got pictures, I got great pictures of youth out there celebrating and fighting the powers that be, if you will. So that's something I'm working on for probably the other channel, because it's long form and it fits there. You guys will just fight me on that here. But feel free to fight me on any topic you have seen me produce today, because you do, or show me some love. Follow us on the feeds, like, share, and subscribe, and just be here tomorrow for another edition, because we need you here, news nerds, of the Conversation Project's things you might not have heard.